Yeah, motherfucker, yeah.
All right. So I'm Brandon Fair here with Taylor Reed. Wanted to kind of, I guess, do a little talk about just some of the triggers that I experience, and also get someone else's perspective and input on kind of what they experience. Also, I know. Well, I think I know, and that's that a lot of other IV users kind of deal with some of the same things.
Similar.
And so, it's kind of, I guess, relatable, and I mean, it's a powerful thing, if you're talking about it in the wrong way.
Glorifying it.
And I mean, the big thing too is I know that me being, I guess, freshly clean, since August of last year, is that I don't know, like that, sometimes that sensation, of just like, I don't know, like here's an example, for instance, like working out, and sometimes like when my veins are just like bulging out, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And you get like a good pump on, like, man, I'll like be like, wow, and just like, and that trips me out sometimes,
Just having that vein accessible. And
just having it like that, yeah, because
like a dartboard.
yeah, because there's so many times when in my active addiction when like, man, I had dope and I could not find a vein for the life of me, you know what I mean? And so it's like, that's one of those things, that like it's like right there, and I'm like, man, you know what I mean? Like how
I do this with my eyes closed right now.
yeah, and like how it would just be like so amazing, you know what I mean? And it takes a second to get out of that, but does that ever go away? Has it gone away for, like, how do you
It still comes up from time to time. People, places, and things. I think one of the hardest triggers for me to deal with now is like going back home, because I had created such a hectic environment to where, every time I went to town, it was, pretty much guaranteed I was going to run into a dealer or somebody that I use with. So now that, I have some clean time under my belt, those thoughts still come back up as I drive home. It's like a 3.5 hour drive. So those thoughts do come up. I do feel those temptations. But it's just realizing like what you have, what you've worked for from day one up until, whatever day you're at with sobriety. Like, you value that more than you value that high. For some odd reason, even in the past, like getting sober, could be doing so well with my career, with relationships, XYZ pretty much, and then get emotionally blindsided and relapse and start using it within a couple months, just, be at rock bottom again. And why? It's like every time we relapse, before we know the path that it's going to take us to, but we still choose to do it. Why? Fuck. That's the power of, heroin, meth, just addiction, all in all. But the triggers, just being aware enough to realize like it's just a thought, it's just a feeling, it's just like an emotion that's temporary. Building up those coping mechanisms, relaxation techniques, and like a relapse prevention plan to help kind of divert that situation to where you're not emotionally blindsided, and then before you know it, you have a needle shoved in your arm, to where you can recenter, kind of ground yourself in place. Like, all right, this will pass. This too shall pass.
Yeah.
So just reminding you, having having tools in place to use when those moments occur. You know, a lot of treatment centers, they give you all these tools and resources for your disposal to keep you successful, to keep you sober. But sometimes it's easier said than done. But it's just taking the initiative, taking that first step, being proactive with your recovery program, and taking action to where, you know, you can start to have some tally marks in the win side versus the loss, relapse, all that other bullshit.
So, yeah, you talk about like just going back home, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually thinking about the same thing because, you know, I guess I really started using hard like every day around like 2012, 2013, and it wasn't long after that before I was like on the streets, you know, and running around Denver. I remember this is like, I don't know, it's kind of, I don't know, coincidence, but I remember my dad, they were just like so like at a loss with me, you know what I mean?
Damn, it's tough.
And I forget what the last straw was, you know. I think I didn't want to go get help or something, and so he's like, oh well, you can't stay with us, so packed up all my stuff, and I remember he dropped me off at the rescue mission in downtown Denver, you know what I mean? And I was like, man, wow, really? I was like, this is, you know, and also at the same time, like it was a little bit intimidating, you know. But I also knew that I'd be able to find some dope down here, you know. Just with like
It's flooded down there.
Yeah, I mean, just with like all the people and everything else, and so yeah, I mean, just being homeless and being on the streets. I mean, I guess first of all, you know, I'm probably lucky to be alive, and just like thinking back on some of the things like that I had to do that I'm not proud of to survive, you know, are pretty ridiculous, and to just think about like the women that were out there, you know what I mean? Like, wow, man. Like that's one thing, is just like the women have it so hard out there, you know? To be a woman like addicted on a homeless one, you know, and addicted to drugs, that's rough, you know? But I guess where I was going with this is, you know, I really did run all over the place too, you know, in Denver, outside of Denver, Greeley. And so, you know, I see a lot of familiar faces when I'm just down there, you know. And so it hasn't been that rough being out here. I did have a little 6-month stint out here in Fort Collins during COVID, and you know, that also was just, you know, I was just like high 24/7 here. So there are some places that kind of, I'll go by, you know, I'll be in the shuttle and we'll go by these places or something, or maybe it's like a Saturday and I'm catching like the max, you know, and like we'll drive by some place and like, you know, I'll get like a memory or something, you know. But there's few of those here. And so I'm just like, man, like, am I gonna have to like stay away from Denver? Maybe, you know, I mean, I think there's some parts, like, there really are probably some parts, because it doesn't take much to just remind me of like, you know, like seeing a place that I've used is just awful, you know, and there's a lot of those.
Yeah, that's why it's so hard for me to go home, because, you know, good experiences, bad experiences carry this emotional charge. So when you go someplace where you used a bunch, not only are like you're remembering the memory of it, but that emotional piece that came with it. And, you know, for myself, I carry a lot of those negative emotional charges from places that I had bad experiences with. That's why I'm a big advocate for, you know, starting your life someplace new, someplace fresh, so you can create more positive experiences, have positive memories in that place. I mean, there's going to be some bad things that happen with your work, with relationships, so on and so forth. But I feel like those are manageable as long as don't run back to dope and then really create a shit show. yeah, like Denver. I've had some bad experiences down there. Pueblo, Lamar, Greeley. Like Wellington is, where I got sober. So why not start a new life here, create a new community of like-minded people, and yeah, just see what happens.
Yeah. So I guess this is another thing is, talk about triggers. Another thing is, for me, a focus of and part of getting high was like sex, sex and women. So like, what do you think? Like, how do you separate the two? And is it
Like the cross addiction, or
yeah? I mean, it's because I think it's well, for me it's hard, because
oh yeah, go ahead.
because I gotta say, just being in my addiction, and I mean, I really didn't respect women. I didn't respect women. Sex was sex, but it was like it's kind of, I don't know. I'd say like they went hand in hand. So like right now, when I think about women or something, sometimes like the thought of, I mean, because right now, I can only relate that to like being high with women, and so it's kind of like the separation right now is really hard, really, really, really hard.
The sex piece was never an issue in my active addiction. I always had this thought of like, I never wanted to bring a female into my world. There was females that I would use with, but as far as sleeping around and all that stuff,
Right.
it just wasn't there. I mean, I was so doped up that, I was, my little friend was non-existent pretty much. It was like button on her fur coat, man.
Yeah.
But the cross addiction piece, like coming out of addiction, getting sober, there's a fine line. Like it's really easy to get sucked into a relationship based solely on sex, or the codependency piece starts kicking in, or just that, having somebody there, somebody's company, like you can get addicted to that. So it's the relationship piece early on in sobriety is pretty tricky. A lot of guys that I work with have unfortunately fell off because of those things. Like they meet somebody early on, after a few months, oh man, we're in love and all this stuff is gonna happen and she's gonna let me move in. It's like, well, pump the brakes. You're in treatment. Not saying you're not deserving, or any of us are undeserving of somebody special, but you have to figure out who you are first in sobriety. I think it was really easy in my active addiction to put on this persona and this kind of act to where I was super friendly and outgoing and comfortable talking to people. But it's a whole different ballgame once you get sober, because all those raw emotions start coming up, and even like the self-doubt and all this negative stuff. So working through any unresolved trauma or defects of character first, like that's the number one priority for myself. It is, at least, before starting something serious with someone else, because that's a different ballgame when you move in with someone and you share your life with somebody. Like that's a big step, especially being sober. It's vital figuring out who you are, what your identity is, what your purpose is, your life mission, all that stuff.
That's good stuff, man. Good thing we're gonna go work out after this, huh?
Cross addiction, baby.
Yeah. Any other things or any advice you give for just I mean, maybe like someone who's just freshly sober, and just maybe dealing with some of the struggles, maybe I don't know, because I guess I think it's a little easier for me right now because my environment's controlled, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the most part.
To a degree, yeah.
Yeah, and so 75% of the people I'm around most of the time are not going to be leading me in the wrong direction, or you know what I mean. but like for the person who's living life and trying to maybe stay clean on their own and just stay away from it, what kind of advice would you have?
Oh man, doing it on your own. I mean, if you're in a environment that is unhealthy to your sobriety, it's imperative to remove yourself from that. Do not underestimate the power of influence. It's like, you hang around 5 people who are using, you're gonna be the 6th. If you hang around 5 people that are sober, you're gonna be the 6th. So who you associate with, who you surround yourself with, is ultimately who you're gonna emulate and start to become. And if you can't get out of that environment, man, just it's extremely difficult, but it can be done. Being observant of your own self-talk and just how you think, how you talk about yourself. If you can start to kind of reprogram yourself from I might relapse, I'm uncertain, whatever, to like I can stay sober, I must stay sober, and I will. Little mantras can help. With the triggers, have somebody that is sober or somebody that you trust that's doing well that you can call anytime and kind of vent to. Just get that weight off of your chest. Hit up meetings as much as you can. Start doing things that are good for your mental health. Like, you can practice some meditation to kind of quiet your mind, become aware of your breath. You can go to the gym. You can release, endorphins naturally, get that natural high. Just going for walks. It's, in the grand scheme of things, I think, early on for me, I thought it was like this huge thing that I had to accomplish to stay sober. But really what it is just those small acts of discipline. Those small things reap big rewards down the road. So self-control and discipline are huge in the little things early on. Or if you're trying to do it on your own, it's just knowing who you are, what you're capable of, and ultimately like where you see yourself going. Like you have to have a vision of where you want to go, what you want to do, who you want to be with, unless you basically be just a dry drunk, in my opinion, just white knuckling it all the time, never having that sense of peace, never having that true happiness kind of manifest itself. But yeah, I mean, if you believe you can do it, you can. You just have to be headstrong and courageous through those unfavorable environments, kind of destructive people that you could be around. But again, I mean, if there's a will, if there's a will, there's a way. And if sobriety and being successful is something that you truly want, then you're going to have to step outside your comfort zone and be uncomfortable for a while. Move to a new city, new town, start a new job, just so you can get that peace of mind and not always have like that devil on your shoulder. Whether that's through another person that's always around you, whatever that is, just setting yourself up for success is paramount.
Awesome. I think that's good. It's a lot to digest, for today. I just want to thank you for just, I guess, sharing and giving back. I mean, I know you make it a lot easier for me. Just like setting an example and, I don't know, just being so helpful and willing to just like hit the gym,
Of course.
It's those things and those good habits and the process that's awesome. And the consistency is good, so yeah, and I'm sure everybody else was thankful too,
Hope so.
It's really nice to see other people who have like gone through this program and still like give back. I think honestly, it'd kind of be weird if you did really like complete this program and it was the reason that you're kind of, or like the beginning I don't want to say reason that you're still clean and sober, but like had a big part to play, and like you just kind of left it behind. You know, I think that'd be kind of strange. But so it's good to see people who, you know, were once here, kind of giving back and still, you know, being kind of connected.
Of course, man. Addiction, I don't hate really anything, but addiction is a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like what it does to the individual, the family, the community, so on and so forth. You know, that's my fight, is helping the next person out, get out of that, you know, bucket of shit, pretty much. Because it is miserable, it's painful, it's embarrassing, it's all the above. And, you know, to be able to pay that forward to the next person is, you know, something that's pretty cool. But, and side note, repetition is the mother of all skill. So make sure the skills that you're learning are good ones. Those little habits, man. Every day, baby. Every day.
All right.
But, yeah. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right, let's hit it, man.
Let's do that.